The stars had always been silent. For thousands of years, humans looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. They sent signals into the darkness. They listened for answers. They dreamed of meeting other life forms among the stars. They should have been more careful about what they wished for. In the cold emptiness beyond Neptune, space itself seemed to tear open. A bright flash of light appeared where nothing had existed before, then another, and another. Thousands of lights blinked into existence, like angry stars being born all at once. The Valkorian Empire had arrived. Grand Admiral Thokol stood on the bridge of his massive warship. The endless night, he was tall, nearly 9 feet, with gray skin that looked like stone and 4 eyes that glowed with a soft yellow light. Behind him, through the enormous window, 3,000 warships floated in perfect formation. Each one was larger than any building humans had ever constructed. Thokol had done this 400 times before. 400 worlds had fallen to his fleet. 400 species had been conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. He was the greatest military commander the Valkorian Empire had ever produced, and he had never lost a single campaign. This small blue planet would be no different. Report, Thokol said. His voice was deep, like thunder rolling through mountains. Sub-Commander Rennis stepped forward. She was smaller than the Admiral, with darker skin and 3 eyes instead of 4. She had served under Thokol for 30 years and had learned to read his moods. Right now, he was bored. Conquering primitive worlds did not excite him anymore. The planet is designated Resource World 7291, Rennis said. The dominant species calls it Earth. They call themselves humans. Population is approximately 8 billion. Thokol made a sound that might have been a laugh. 8 billion. That is a good harvest. What is their technology level? Rennis looked at her data screen. Primitive, Admiral. They have nuclear fission, but no fusion. Basic satellite networks. Chemical rockets. No faster than light travel. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. Threat assessment. Negligible, Admiral. They pose no danger to the fleet. Thokol nodded slowly. This was exactly what he expected. Every species thought they were special. Every species thought they would be the ones to resist the Valkorian Empire. None of them ever succeeded. Begin standard protocol, Thokol ordered. Scan the planet for resources. Identify military installations. Prepare the terror broadcasts. The terror broadcasts were a tradition. Before any invasion, the Valkorians would send messages to the target world. They would show footage of previous conquests. They would demonstrate what happened to species that resisted. Most civilizations surrendered before a single shot was fired. Fear was the most efficient weapon in the universe. As the fleet moved deeper into the solar system, Rennis continued her scans. She was thorough in her work, always looking for details that others might miss. It was why Thokol kept her as his advisor, even though she asked too many questions. Something strange appeared on her screen. Admiral, Rennis said, her voice uncertain. I am detecting unusual electromagnetic emissions from the planet. Thokol turned one of his 4 eyes toward her. Explain. Her communication signals, Admiral. They are chaotic, layered. There are billions of individual transmissions happening simultaneously. Radio, television, digital networks, satellite communications. The density is unlike anything I have seen from a pre-contact species. They are primitive, Thokol said dismissively. Primitive species make noise. It means nothing. Reness was not so sure. She had studied hundreds of target worlds before their conquest. None of them had produced this much electromagnetic activity. It was as if the entire planet was constantly talking to itself, arguing with itself, entertaining itself, all at the same time. Admiral, I recommend we take more time to study their transmissions before we proceed. Thokol's 4 eyes focused on her with cold annoyance. You recommend we delay the conquest of a species that cannot even leave their own planet? A species with no weapons capable of scratching our ships? I simply think you think too much, Rennis. That has always been your weakness. Thokol turned back to the window. We will be in orbit within 3 of their days. Prepare the invasion force. This world will fall like all the others. Reness lowered her head in submission, but she did not stop her scans. Something about this world bothered her. Something in those chaotic signals felt different. She could not explain it, but a feeling of unease settled in her chest. On the planet below, humans continued their lives. They went to work. They ate meals with their families. They laughed and cried and loved and fought. They had no idea that 3,000 warships were approaching. They had no idea that an empire which had crushed 400 civilizations was coming to add Earth to its collection. But they would know soon. And when they did, they would do something that no other species in the history of the Valkorian Empire had ever done. They would fight. Back in a way the galaxy had never seen, not with weapons, not with armies, but with the truth of what humanity really was. The Valkorians thought they were coming to conquer another primitive world. They thought this would be easy. They thought humans would beg and cry and surrender like every other species. They were wrong. Grant. Admiral Thokal had never lost a campaign. He had never faced an enemy he could not defeat. He had never encountered a species that made him afraid. That was about to change. Earth was waiting. And Earth had a message to send. The alarm came at 3:47 in the morning. Geneva time. Director Unipark was already awake. She had not slept well in years. Running the Global Defense Initiative meant carrying the weight of the entire planet on her shoulders. Tonight, that weight had become real. Her phone rang with the emergency code she had hoped never to hear. Red Level Alpha. Confirmed extraterrestrial contact. Hostile intent? Probable. She was in the command center within 20 minutes. The room was buried deep underground, beneath 300 feet of rock and steel. Screens covered every wall. Officers rushed between stations, their faces pale with fear. In the center of the room, a massive holographic display showed the solar system. 3,000 red dots were moving past Neptune. "Talk to me," Una said as she walked to the central platform. General Taiho Kim met her there. He was a large man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars during his career, but nothing had prepared him for this. "We detected them 6 hours ago," Taiho said. "Our deep space satellites picked up the energy signatures when they exited whatever form of faster-than-light travel they use. 3,000 ships, Director. Each one is larger than an aircraft carrier." Una stared at the red dots on the display. "Trajectory? Direct course for Earth. At their current speed, they will be in orbit within 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days." That was all the time humanity had left. Una closed her eyes for a moment. When she was a young girl, she had dreamed of meeting aliens. She had studied astrophysics because she wanted to find life among the stars. She had dedicated her life to preparing humanity for first contact. She had always imagined it would be wonderful. "What are our options?" she asked. Taiho pulled up another display. It showed every military asset on Earth. Nuclear missiles, orbital defense satellites, fighter jets, naval vessels. Everything humanity had built to fight its own wars. "If we throw everything we have at them," Taiho said, "every nuclear weapon, every missile, every ship, our analysts estimate a 0.003% chance of victory. So no chance at all. No, Director. No chance at all." Una felt the despair trying to crush her. 8 billion people were depending on her. 8 billion lives. Every child playing in every yard. Every mother holding her baby. Every old man watching the sunset. All of them would die if she failed. She refused to let despair win. "Get me Dr. Hannah Choi," Una said, "and Captain Do-Yan Lee. I want them here within the hour." Dr. Hannah Choi arrived first. She was young, barely 30, with short black hair and glasses that she constantly pushed up her nose. She was the best communications specialist on Earth, capable of decoding signals that no one else could understand. Captain Do-Yan Lee came next. He was 45, lean and quiet, with the calm eyes of a man who had made peace with death long ago. He commanded the Defiance, humanity's only interstellar-capable ship. It was a small vessel, built in secret over 20 years, designed for exploration rather than war. HFY gathered them in a private room, away from the chaos of the command center. "I am going to ask you both to do something impossible," she said. "The military option is gone. We cannot fight these things. We cannot run from them. Our only chance is to communicate." Ohad followed them into the room. He shook his head in frustration. "Director, you cannot negotiate with an invasion fleet. They are coming to destroy us." "Then we need to give them a reason not to," Una replied. Hannah raised her hand slightly. "Director, I have been analyzing the signals coming from the alien fleet. Their language is complex, but I believe I can decode it. Given enough time, you have 72 hours. Hannah swallowed hard, but nodded. "I will try." Una turned to Doyon. "Captain, I need the Defiance ready to launch within 48 hours. You will not be fighting. You will be delivering a message directly to the alien fleet." Doyon's expression did not change. "You want me to fly into the middle of 3,000 enemy warships?" "Yes." "Alone?" "Yes." There was a long silence. Then Doyon smiled, just slightly. "I have done crazier things." "What message am I carrying?" Una looked at all of them. Taiho, the soldier. Hannah, the scientist. Doyon, the pilot. These people would decide the fate of humanity. These people and the impossible plan forming in her mind. "We are going to tell them the truth," Una said. "We are going to show them exactly what humanity is. Every war we have fought, every horror we have survived, every time we have almost destroyed ourselves and somehow did not. We are going to give them our entire history translated into their language." Taiho frowned. "You want to show them our weaknesses?" "No, General. I want to show them what we are capable of. I want them to understand that we are a species that has been killing itself for thousands of years, and we are still here. I want them to calculate exactly how many of their soldiers will die if they try to take this planet." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I want them to be afraid of us." The room was silent. Outside, the clock was ticking. 72 hours until the end of everything. But for the first time since the alarm sounded, there was something other than despair in the air. There was hope. Humanity was about to send a message to the stars. Not a cry for help, not a plea for mercy, but a warning, and the galaxy would never be the same. 30-6 hours remained. The Valkorian fleet had crossed Jupiter's orbit. Their ships moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts, blocking out the stars behind them. On Earth, governments had informed their citizens. Panic had spread, then slowly turned into something else, something stronger. In cities around the world, people gathered in the streets, not to riot, not to flee. They gathered to be together. Strangers held hands, enemies embraced. For the first time in history, humanity truly felt like one family. If these were their last days, they would face them together. Deep beneath the mountains of Switzerland, Dr. Hannah Choi had not slept in 2 days. Her eyes burned. Her hands shook from too much coffee. But she had done it. She had decoded the Valkorian language. "It is beautiful in a way," she said to no one in particular, staring at her screens. "Their grammar is mathematical, precise, cold. They have 100 words for conquest, and no word for mercy." Director Una Park stood beside her. "Can you translate our message?" "Yes. It will not be perfect, but they will understand it." Una placed her hand on Hannah's shoulder. "Then let us begin." The message they created was called Project Echo. It was not a letter. It was not a plea. It was a complete picture of human civilization, compressed into a single data package that would take the Valkorians hours to fully process. Yoonji Seo, the chief data archivist, had worked with her team to compile it. She was a quiet woman in her 50s who had spent her life preserving human history. Now she was using that history as a weapon. "We included everything," Yoonji explained, as she showed Una the final package. "Every major war, every genocide, every plague, every disaster. We showed them the Black Death that killed half of Europe. We showed them World War I, where millions died fighting over a few miles of mud. We showed them World War II, the atomic bombs, the Holocaust. Yuna's face was grim. They need to see what we are. They will, Yunji said. We also included our weapons. Not as threats, but as documentation. Every nuclear warhead, every biological agent ever created, every chemical weapon. We showed them what we built to destroy each other. And the projections? Yunji nodded. Our military analysts calculated exactly how many Valkorian soldiers would die in a ground invasion. House-to-house fighting in every city. Guerrilla warfare in every forest and mountain. Suicide attacks. Improvised explosives. Poisoned water supplies. We showed them that even if they destroy our armies, our civilians will fight. Even our children will fight. It was a terrible thing to admit. It was also true at the heart of the message was something simpler. A statement that Hannah had translated into perfect Valkorian. We have killed 100 billion of our own kind throughout our history. We have survived extinction 7 times. We do not surrender. We do not forget. And we never stop fighting. Your fleet is welcome to try. The broadcast center was a small room near the command center. Jiho Kung, a young communications officer barely out of training, had volunteered to send the signal. He was 23 years old. He had a girlfriend waiting for him in Seoul. He was terrified, but when Yuna asked him why he volunteered, he simply said, "Someone has to push the button. It might as well be me." Yuna stood beside him as the final countdown began. Around the world, billions of people watched their screens, knowing that something important was happening, even if they did not understand exactly what. "Jiho," Yuna said quietly, "what you are doing right now matters more than any battle ever fought. You are giving humanity a chance." Jiho's hands were steady on the controls. "I just hope it works, Director. So do I." The countdown reached 0. Jiho pressed the button. The signal exploded outward from Earth at the speed of light. It carried the weight of human history. Every triumph, every tragedy, every moment of horror, and every moment of hope. It carried the message that humanity had written in its own blood over thousands of years. We are not easy to kill. We are not easy to break. We will make you pay for every inch of our world at the same time. Captain Do-Yeon Lee launched the Defiance from its hidden base on the moon. The small ship shot toward the alien fleet, carrying backup copies of the signal in case the broadcast failed. Do-Yen flew alone. He had said goodbye to no one. He had written no letters. When asked why, he had shrugged and said, "If this works, I will come home. If it does not, letters will not matter." The Defiance was fast, but it would take hours to reach the fleet. Do-Yen settled into his pilot's seat and watched the stars. Behind him, Earth glowed blue and white and beautiful. Ahead of him, 3,000 warships waited on the Valkorian flagship. Subcommander Rennis detected the incoming signal first. Her eyes widened as her computers tried to process the sheer volume of data. "Admiral," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet." Grand Admiral Thokal barely looked up from his command chair. "A surrender?" Rennis stared at her screen, watching the data pour in. "Not a surrender." She paused, trying to find the right words. "I believe it is a warning." Thokal finally turned his attention to her. For the first time in their 30 years together, he saw something in her eyes that he did not recognize. Fear. The Valkorian flagship was silent. Grand. Admiral Thokal stood before the main display screen, his 4 eyes fixed on the images flowing across it. Behind him, the bridge crew had stopped working. No one spoke. No one moved. They simply watched. The signal from Earth was still unpacking itself, revealing layer after layer of human history. What they saw defied everything they knew about primitive species. Scholar Vectus was the first to find his voice. He was old, even by Valkorian standards, with pale gray skin and 2 of his 4 eyes clouded by age. He had spent centuries studying conquered species. He had never seen anything like this. "These creatures," Vectus whispered. "They are insane." The display showed something called World War I. Millions of humans charging into walls of machine gun fire. Bodies piled in trenches. Soldiers drowning in mud while gas burned their lungs. And yet they kept fighting. For 4 years, They kept fighting. They killed each other over lines on a map, Renna said, her voice hollow with disbelief. 10 million dead. And then 20 years later, they did it again. The display shifted to World War II, cities burning, bombs falling. The Holocaust, where humans systematically murdered 6 million of their own kind simply because of their religion. And at the end, the atomic bombs. Sokol watched the footage of Hiroshima. He watched a single weapon erase an entire city in a flash of light. They built these weapons, he said slowly, to use on themselves? Yes, Admiral, Vectis replied. And according to this data, they built thousands more. They had enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet several times over. They pointed these weapons at each other for decades. But they did not fire them. No, they simply lived with the threat. Every day, knowing that at any moment their entire species could be erased. Thokol was quiet for a long moment. In 400 campaigns he had never hesitated. He had never felt doubt. Species resisted, and he crushed them. It was simple. It was efficient. This was different. The signal continued. It showed smaller wars. Korea, Vietnam, Rwanda, where humans killed 800,000 of their own kind in 100 days using simple tools like knives and clubs. The Middle East, where conflicts had lasted for generations with no end in sight. Their capacity for violence is unlike anything in our records, Vectis said. But that is not what disturbs me most. What disturbs you most? Thokol asked. Vectis pointed to a new section of the signal. Medical records. Biological data. Psychological profiles. Species, Vectis said, refuses to die. The data showed humans surviving injuries that would kill any Velkorian instantly. Soldiers continuing to fight with missing limbs. Patients surviving diseases that destroyed 90% of their bodies. Humans trapped under rubble for days, refusing to give up. They have a concept we have no word for, Rennis added. They call it spite. It is the willingness to harm yourself in order to harm your enemy. They will accept their own death if it means taking their killer with them. Thokol felt something cold settle in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. Calculate the cost of invasion, he ordered. Rennis worked at her console. The numbers appeared on the screen and they were horrifying. Based on their history of resistance, their weapon capabilities, and their psychological profile, Rennis said, we estimate losing 60% of our fleet in the initial invasion. Ground forces would face constant guerrilla attacks for decades. They would poison their own food and water supplies rather than let us use them. They would rig their cities to explode. They would turn every building into a fortress, and every citizen into a soldier. 60% Thokol repeated. At minimum, Admiral, and we would never truly control the planet. Even with total military victory, humans would resist. Forever, they would teach their children to resist. They would pass down hatred through generations. They would never stop. The signal had one final piece. It was not military data or historical records. It was footage. It showed humans singing in trenches while bombs fell around them. Soldiers playing soccer in the middle of wars. Families having picnics near battlefields. Couples falling in love during sieges. Mothers giving birth in bomb shelters. Children laughing in ruined cities. What is this? Thokol asked, confused. Vectis stared at the images with something close to awe. They are celebrating, Admiral. Even during their worst moments, they find joy. They make music. They create art. They fall in love. They have children, knowing those children might die in the war. Why? Vectis turned to face the Admiral. His old eyes were filled with a wisdom earned over centuries. Because they have made peace with death, Admiral. They do not fear it the way other species do. They expect it. They accept it. And so they refuse to let it stop them from living. The bridge was silent. Grand Admiral Thokol looked at the blue planet growing larger in the distance. He had conquered 400 worlds. He had never met a species like this. He had never been afraid before. Admiral Rennis said carefully, "What are your orders?" Thokol did not answer immediately. He was thinking about the cost. 60% of his fleet, decades of guerrilla war. A population that would never submit. A species that would rather burn their own world than let someone else take it. For the first time in his long career, Grand Admiral Thokal wondered if victory was worth the price. The signal's final message hung in the air. Translated into perfect Valkorian. We have killed 100 billion of our own kind. We have survived extinction 7 times. We do not surrender. We do not forget. And we never stop fighting. Your fleet is welcome to try. Thokal realized something terrible. They meant every word. 3 days had passed since the signal. The Valkorian fleet had stopped at the orbit of Mars. 3,000 warships hung motionless in the darkness, waiting. On Earth, billions of people watched the skies and prayed to whatever gods they believed in. No one knew what would happen next in the underground command center. Director Una Park had not left her post since the signal was sent. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. Her voice was hoarse from giving orders. But when the communication request came from the alien flagship, she straightened her spine and prepared to face whatever came next. "They want to talk?" General Taiho Kim said, surprise clear in his voice. "The alien commander is requesting a direct communication channel." Una nodded slowly. "Accepted." The main screen flickered. And then, for the first time, humanity saw the face of their enemy. Grand Admiral Thokal was terrifying. 9 feet tall, with stone-gray skin and 4 glowing eyes. His presence radiated power and menace. Behind him, the bridge of his warship stretched into shadows. For a long moment, neither species spoke. Then Thokal's deep voice filled the command center. "You are the leader of this world?" Una stepped forward, appearing as a hologram on the Valkorian bridge. She was small compared to the Admiral, fragile, human, but her voice did not shake. "I am Director Una Park of the Global Defense Initiative. I speak for Earth." Thokal studied her with his 4 eyes. "Your signal. Your message. Was it true?" "Every word. You have truly killed 100 billion of your own kind." Una's expression did not change. "That is our best estimate. The true number may be higher. We have not always kept good records of our wars." Something flickered in Thokal's eyes. "It might have been horror. It might have been respect." "I have conquered 400 worlds," he said slowly. "I have studied thousands of species. None of them have ever done what your kind has done. None of them have ever matched your capacity for violence." "We are not proud of it," Una replied, "but we do not hide from it either." "Why did you send this message? Why show us your darkest history?" Una took a breath. "This was the moment that would decide everything, because I wanted you to understand something, Admiral. We have been fighting wars since before we had writing. We have developed every weapon imaginable, from stones to nuclear bombs. We have turned killing into an art form. And yet, we are still here." She paused, letting the words sink in. "You could destroy our cities. You could burn our nations. But you cannot defeat us. Because we have been trying to defeat ourselves for 10,000 years, and we have always failed. You cannot break what has already been broken and rebuilt 1,000 times." Thokal was silent. Behind him, Sub-Commander Rennis and Scholar Vectus watched with wide eyes. "What do you want?" Thokal finally asked. "I want you to leave. Go find an easier world to conquer. But before you go, I want you to understand one thing." "What is that?" Una's eyes were steady. "We did not send you our history to threaten you. We sent it because we are tired of fighting. Every war we have ever fought has cost us pieces of our soul. We do not want another one. We do not want to kill your soldiers any more than we want our people to die." She stepped closer to the holographic display. "We sent you the truth because we believe in truth. And the truth is that this war would destroy both of us. You might win eventually, but you would lose so much of your fleet that your empire would be weakened. Your enemies would attack. Your conquered worlds would rebel. You would win this battle and lose your empire." Thokal's jaw tightened. He had calculated the same thing. He knew she was right. "There is another option," Rennis said suddenly, stepping forward. "Admiral, if I may speak?" Thokal waved his permission. Renus addressed the human hologram directly. Our empire has never allied with another species. We have only conquered. But we have also never encountered a species like yours. Perhaps it is time for something new. An alliance, Yuna asked. A partnership. Your species has something we do not. Adaptability, resilience, creativity born from chaos. And we have something you lack. Technology, resources, a place among the stars. Thokal considered this for a long moment. It went against everything the Valkorian Empire believed. They were conquerors, not partners. They did not ask for help. They took what they wanted, but looking at this small, fragile human, Thokal realized something. She was not afraid of him. He had faced generals and kings and emperors from 400 worlds. All of them had shown fear. All of them had begged or threatened or pleaded. This woman simply spoke the truth and waited for his answer. Very well, Thokal said at last. We will negotiate. The tension in the command center broke like a wave crashing on rocks. People cheered. People cried. People embraced each other. Humanity had survived. 1 week later, Captain Doyen Lee landed his ship on the Valkorian flagship for the signing ceremony. He walked alone through corridors built for beings twice his size. Alien soldiers watched him pass with expressions he could not read. Grand Admiral Thokal met him in the treaty chamber. The admiral towered over the human pilot by 3 feet. You flew alone into the heart of my fleet, Thokal said. Were you not afraid? Doyen smiled slightly. I was terrified, Admiral. Then why did you do it? Because it needed to be done. And because fear has never stopped humans from doing anything. Thokal studied the small creature before him. Are all your kind this way? No, Doyen admitted. Most of us are scared all the time. We just do not let it stop us. The treaty was signed that day. Earth would not become Resource World 7291. Instead, humanity would take its place among the stars, not as subjects. But as partners, the Valkorian Empire had conquered 400 worlds. They had never lost a campaign. They had never been afraid. Earth changed everything. The signal that saved humanity was not a weapon. It was a mirror. It showed the Valkorians exactly what humans were, and for the first time in their history. They decided that some species were simply too stubborn, too broken, and too human to ever truly defeat. And so humanity survived. Not through strength, not through technology, but through the simple, terrible truth of what they were. The galaxy had received the message. Humanity was not to be conquered. Humanity was to be respected. And that made all the difference.